I'm here with Tommy Cryer on the Real News. The IRS took him on in a court case. I'd like for you to just bring us up to speed and tell us what happened in that.
Well, fair enough. Back in the early 90s, I learned that there was no law that made me liable for the income tax. And of course, that caused me to have to go and dig back and find out why. You know, because you don't leave something that big out of a tax law. Every tax law has that in it. You don't leave that out by accident. Something was wrong. And I dug back all the way to the bone and all the way back, and I ended up figuring out and finding out exactly what had happened. And basically what's happening is that the Internal Revenue Service is not following the law. The law says one thing, and it's perfectly legal, it's perfectly constitutional, because it doesn't tax things the government isn't allowed to tax. But the IRS is telling people that everybody's liable for an income tax because it doesn't say who is liable. There's no such thing as an implied tax, no such thing as an inferred tax. If it doesn't, if a letter of the law doesn't make you liable, you don't owe a penny. And they know that. They also have found out that income isn't what people think it is. People think whatever comes in is income. But what comes in is gross receipts. And when you get a paycheck, hopefully you do, when you get a paycheck, that isn't your income. That's your gross receipts, the same way as the gross receipts that Walmart takes in every day. The IRS doesn't say that Walmart's gross receipts are 100% income, but they do say yours is. The guy who greets people at the front door at Walmart, he's making 100% income. Walmart's making 1.5% paying taxes on just that. So, you know, what's wrong with that? Did the old man not have at the door? Was it that he didn't give anything in exchange for a paycheck? Did you give anything in exchange for your paycheck?
My labor.
Your time? How much life do you have? Do you know? But you're sure giving up an hour of it today, aren't you?
That's right.
And that hour you can't buy back with all the money you're going to get paid for it. Matter of fact, you can't buy that hour back with everything that you'll earn for the entire year. It's gone. You've given it up. If you made 100% profit, and the fact is, when you look at that, an employer, if he paid employees more than their labor was worth, he couldn't sell it for more than he paid for it, could he?
That's right.
So there is no profit, there is no income in personal earnings, because you've exchanged a part of yourself, your labor, your sweat, your knowledge, your skill, your talent, and everything else that you put in and give to your employer in exchange for that money. That's not 100% profit. So that's a lie. They also lie to tell people that we can tax anything of any kind. Well, the 16th Amendment is what they cite for that, because it says income from whatever source. Now, that doesn't mean every source whatsoever, and the Supreme Court's made that very clear. It means only those sources that the government, the federal government, is entitled to rule. Now, you and I know from a civics class and history about McCulloch versus Maryland, whenever the famous Justice John Marshall said the power to tax is the power to destroy. Well, turn that coin over. If I don't have the power to destroy, can I tax? Because if I have the power to tax, I've got the power to destroy. Do I have the right to destroy your right to earn a living? I can't tax it. Do I have a right to tax your freedom of speech? What we're doing here today? They can't tax that, can they? If they put a tax collector in front of your church and on Sunday morning he said $10 going to church tax, you'd make a non-churchly gesture at him and walk on in, wouldn't you?
That's right.
A very unchurchly gesture.
That's right.
And basically, that's the same thing. People don't realize, because they don't teach it in civics anymore, that one of our fundamental rights, just like our right to freedom of speech, our right to free press, our right to worship as we choose, or not to worship if we choose not to, those rights can't be taxed. But also another fundamental right that we have is the right to earn a living through any lawful occupation by our own labor. That is part of the right to pursue happiness. If you can't decide what you're going to work at, if you can't decide what kind of job you're going to do, and you can't go to work doing it and get paid for it and make a living for yourself and your family doing that, are you really going to be able to pursue happiness? So if you have a right to pursue happiness, how can you do that without a right to earn a living through your own labor?
That's a good point. I've never actually heard it put that way, stupid. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, that's the way the Supreme Court puts it. You're not hearing this all on Tom Cryer. You're hearing this all on Supreme Court. Chief Justice Tad, Chief Justice, right down the line. This is all Supreme Court stuff. Now, the IRS cites a bunch of stuff that doesn't apply. And they'll cite a case saying this, that, and the other. And they got this long list of frivolous arguments on their website that they say, we refuted all frivolous arguments. Well, find the absence of liability provision in that list. Well, if it's not on their list of frivolous arguments, what does that mean to you? Must not be a frivolous argument, or that they can't refute it. And they've already said they've refuted all frivolous arguments, so that's all the frivolous arguments there are. If it's not among there, it's not a frivolous argument. It's a genuine article. Same thing with the deal on there is no law that permits them to count 100% of your earnings as profit. Absolutely. It goes against every law. That's not in there. That's not in there. So it's not, they can't refute it. And if you look in that list and look for fundamental right anywhere, do a search. Fundamental right to earn a living, right to labor. What's that in? Look to that. You won't find the tax-exempt nature of a fundamental right. The Supreme Court has said you cannot tax somebody for exercising a fundamental right.
Was this the argument you used to defeat the IRS in your court case?
This was a truth that I spoke to the jury about as to why it was my belief that I didn't owe a tax and I didn't owe them a return. That they were not entitled to demand money of me without showing a lawful right to it. That they were not able to demand and expect to get me to reveal my personal financial information, which is none of their business. I haven't asked you how much you got in your checking account. And if I did, you tell me to mind my own business. I hope you would. I sure would. I don't want people to know I'm overdrawn.
Yeah, I bet.
So, well, actually, I am in a way. I'm deep in a hole. They ruined me. They went back for 2 years, and they went to my clients and scared them all off. And they
told them having to fight for your rights.
Oh, they even, how grand jury proceedings are very secret. I mean, that is a very sacred part of our system and the process. They went out and just wholesale sent out form letters telling people I was under a grand jury investigation. Got to stop doing business with this guy. You're too busy. The fan's going to hit something and it's going to splatter on you.
Was that legal?
No, it's a crime. It's a felony. And I have pointed out to everybody from the president, to both of my senators, to my congressmen. I pointed out to the attorney general. I sent them a book, this thick, with signed confessions from these agents where they did it in writing. And when they didn't do it in writing, they went back to the office and they wrote a memo up saying, I did it, and signed it. And I sent them copies of all that stuff. I sent it to the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, the Secretary of Treasury. I sent a copy to the FBI New Orleans Field Office. I sent a copy to the Treasury Inspector General, Tax Administration, and they're investigating. I sent it to the guy who prosecuted me. I sent it to his boss. And I sent it to the Attorney General. They prosecuted these guys for 58 counts, felony counts, 5 years apiece, added up, wrong time. 58 counts of felony. It's a federal crime to disclose information unnecessarily about a taxpayer. And they did it in writing. And yet they will not prosecute the guy.
Oh, I'm not surprised. So now you're suing the IRS?
So I'm suing. I have filed a lawsuit against them for the same 58, and I've got discovery in works that will probably disclose another 1,000. And every one of those violations entitles me to a minimum of a $1,000 reward.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if I bring up 1,000 violations, 1,000 used to be a million.
Yeah,
but a million isn't what it used to be.
We got the collapsing dollar.
Well,